it's kind of a way to safely and like slowly continuously learn like all the necessary trading skills. But trading skills, I mostly mean like psychological skills. I think, and I it's my strong belief that you can only learn these by doing. You know, you really can't. There's theoretical knowledge, and then this teaches you how to like think in probabilities, what discipline feels like how to take a loss. Hey guys, Griffin Cooper here at Ablewaytech. I hope you enjoy this interview I did recently with a fellow trader, Hamad, where we talked about what I learned from doing the Kata Challenge, what it really is, and where that got me today. And I think you'll see why we think it's a reasonable way to proceed on the slow but fast track to relentless, continuous improvement in the craft of trading.
Well, good morning, Griffin. How are you doing today?
Good. It's afternoon here in Burbank, California. So just had some lunch and yeah, can't complain. Things are good. How are you?
Very good. Just trading it one day at a time. Trying to stay out of the chop.
Right. Like what we were talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So let's start with just an introductory question. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I said I live in Burbank, California. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm 41. I used to work as in the entertainment industry, you know, in LA as a voiceover engineer for animation. I studied music in college. I have 3 kids, a great supportive wife, and I'm co-founder of Ablewaytech with Phil Wu, where we teach the application of trading systems that were developed by Dr. Ken Long at Tortoise Capital.
Is that your full-time job?
It's becoming one. It's more part-time right now.
Okay.
It's you know, I don't have anything else that I have to do, so I try to devote as much time as I can to it. I do that, then I'm a stay-at-home dad raising the kids. So between those 2 things, I'm pretty busy. You know, it kind of started out as a project and has been growing nicely since then. So, you know, I'm happy to be doing it. I like it a lot, and it still gives me some time to trade and stuff, and it's good. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. So how did you get into trading?
I was always interested in it. I mean, I think my first introduction to the markets was, well, like I said, I grew up around, you know, Chicago area, which is, you know, there was a big, when I was a kid, you know, a lot of traders there. And my dad introduced me to the futures market, I think when I was a kid, in the corn futures. And I remember like liking it. There was one time that he was showing me that we were going to go short on the corn. And, you know, we were looking at the newspapers or whatever about it. And then the next day, you know, it went down. I was like, oh, how much money did you make? And he was like, no, it's just for practice. And I was like, no, I want it to be for real money. I was like, let's get something out of it. So I think I've always had an impulse that's had to be tempered. But, you know, I guess the other side of it is that after I left, you know, like I said, I started to have more kids and wanted to stay at home to raise them, you know, concentrate on them. And the engineering was just slow. So I started to study statistics and data when I was kind of pulling away from the voiceover engineering. And the markets kind of seemed like a good place to apply that, like the statistics and data analysis. I was getting into that. And then I was like, this is just kind of a good way to study it. But it ended up being, well, it ended up being really more a study in an uncertainty and risk-taking and learning and forgiveness and gratitude and stuff like that. But it ended up being so kind of compelling that I just stayed looking at the markets and never really went back to the, you know, the data analysis side of it. So I just kind of started to get more and more into the markets, you know. And for me, once I'm into something, I usually just go all in. So
yeah, that seems like a common trait in traders. They take a bite of it and then they want the entire thing.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
Can you tell us about how we found out about Dr. Ken Long and his work?
Yeah, I found Ken Long through the Van Tharp Institute. So I remember the first course I took with him was the advanced swing trading course. It's offered at VTI, and I mean, it was great. That was the first time I'd kind of taken a full course by like a real trader to see kind of their whole process and the way the way they look at things. Not just like it was great to learn the systems and they're great systems, but also kind of just see what it was like and what professionalism kind of sounds like and looks like, you know, that kind of thing. I remember he quoted Bill Murray at some point. He calls it now critical states, but I think at the time he was calling it like extreme extreme moves or something. He was saying that extreme behaviors, like he quoted basically Bill Murray from Ghostbusters, and I was like, I like that. That's my guy. Like I really related to like kind of his way of being kind of more lighthearted and didn't take himself too seriously and stuff. And I really liked that. So he was kind of the one I started to follow after that. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get introduced to the Kata Challenge?
Well, I guess I can explain it. The Kata Challenge means forms, like kata means forms. So it started with this idea of kind of practicing the proper forms. So for trading, it was like practicing the patterns of trading. Like we have 3 basic patterns that we teach. And so it was kind of the practice of following just a simple rule set, simple forms that has an edge. That was where it started. It kind of has now become like this whole system, like a complete methodology for learning to trade. It's kind of a way to safely and like slowly continuously learn like all the necessary trading skills. But trading skills, I mostly mean like psychological skills. I think, and I it's my strong belief that you can only learn these by doing. You know, you really can't. There's theoretical knowledge, and then this teaches you how to like think in probabilities, what discipline feels like how to take a loss. I think for me, like when I was starting out learning to day trade. So I think it's good for people starting to trade. But we have some guys in our cohort now that have been trading, I think, for 20 or 30 years, and they've been posting their stuff, and it's really, they say they're getting a lot out of it. So I think one thing that happens, we all realize how much professionalism we can introduce, you know, these principles of professional trading and how good that is. So it's like, to me, it's very systematic. I mean, I took it originally and kind of made it my own system, and it's really just this experiential trading in like a very step-by-step safe way. So, you know, what we do now is like we give you the patterns, the symbols, we show you how to do like each phase of the trade, you know, the planning, preparing, executing, and assessing what those all look like, how I did them that you can use. And you basically just start trading by trading one pattern at a time. So it's like, it's this idea where you start with like a fixed symbol, a fixed time frame, and you trade one pattern at a time, and then you study the other 2 patterns. So you learn by doing, and then you're also studying and assessing, and you end up getting kind of this real good experience. And plus we do coaching. So it's like when I first did it, it was with Ken, you know, gave me coaching, and then we had like a Kata Challenge workshop where I was giving feedback. And so that's a big part of it, is like, I think the coaching, like having some kind of objective perspective that can help you, because of trading, for me, it's really easy at least to get stuck in the results or to not look at it the right way. So you get another perspective, and this just helps you do kind of it more safely, and you get the support you need. So it's but yeah, it's basically this idea of like a very set, easy to follow plan, and you just stick to the plan. You work on the forms, like the craft of it, and all its aspects. You know?
Amazing. So what are the essentials for starting the Kata Challenge? What are the things you need to have in place?
Well, I can tell you, I mean, how I got started was that I posted a chart in the Tortoise Campfire chat room, you know, Ken's chat room for traders, and where he does his nightly strategy podcast and he coaches. And basically I said some comment that I had, you know, like 6-hour loss or something, you know, a bunch of loss. And I said, I'm embarrassed, you know, by this, to be posting this. And then he took a lot of time that night to be like, don't you dare be embarrassed that, you know, you followed your rules, and that's just what came up that day. You know, just like we were talking about, sometimes the market isn't aligned, you know, and he was like, that's not anything to be embarrassed about. He's like, that's how we learn. And it was still like a blow, because I was like, I'd done Super Trader, you know, the foundation. I'd like, you know, I had spent so much time on psychological stuff, you know, I thought, but like being in there and doing it was totally different than doing it outside of it. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, coming from musical background, there was a guy that we had that, he was a really good guitar player on his own. Like he could play great guitar when he was just playing by himself. But when he started to play he couldn't play with the band. You know what I mean? So it's like, once the market was there, it was really hard to do this stuff. And basically after that, like what he said, he's like, I just want you to trade one pattern at a time each day, and then go back and mark up the other 2 patterns. And that was like kind of what it was, is it was just like fitting them together like a jigsaw. So I'd do like the SSC pattern one day, and I would say, I'm just going to trade SSC and EWZ, you know, one symbol, one time frame, that's it. And then I'd go back through that same period and try to find all the collapsing dragon patterns and then all the Kata 2 patterns. And then I'd kind of integrate them into a chart. So it was a lot of like assessment work, a lot of aftermarket work, but that was really like where the learning came in the whole time I was being coached by Ken. And it was, you know, and as I went, there was just more continuous learning, like we were talking about. You know, things would happen, and I'd write it down. I used his learning journal, like you talked about, but I started to use my own version of it, you know, and just started to apply it in my own way, things that made sense to me. You know, being a student of Van, I really liked the top tasks of trading, so I had to do those in order to like get in the right state of mind and stuff. And eventually, it was like, you know, Ken was like, "Well, you've done a really good job on this. Why don't you teach it? You know, so other people can learn how to do it." You know, and so that's what I did with Phil. And that's, I mean, to me, how people start it now is, I mean, you know, you could say just start, but start in a safe way, you know, like how we teach it is, you know, it's just very safe, easy. I think part of it, the idea is making it easy enough to do. You know, trading's hard enough. Let's try to get the process as easy as we can, so we can just go in there and not cut our hands off, measure our risk, be safe, and learn, you know. So
Yeah. Here's another question. Prior to starting the Kata Challenge, what were some of the aspects that were impeding your success? As you mentioned, you had the psychological aspect of it. Can you delve more into that and mention other aspects that were impeding your trading success?
well,
Or your
before
success
the
in
Kata
trading?
Challenge, oh, sorry. Yeah, before the Kata Challenge, it was a lot of skipping around. It was a lot of, I'd do something for a couple trades and maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. And as soon as I felt it wasn't working, I would try something else, you know, something totally different. So it was hard to get like any kind of, it was like you get on a bus to go somewhere, and then halfway to your destination, you get off and you have to go back to the bus stop, and now you're starting over again. And it's like you never get that far because you keep jumping off the bus. And that was like what I felt like, was like I never was able to get any traction or get far enough because I kept changing and, you know, giving up. And that plus just a lot of impulsivity over trading. Like I just had a lot of, you know, things that didn't feel right. I didn't know at the time that it was basically just lacking professionalism. I just knew this doesn't feel right the way I'm doing this, you know. You know, I don't want to do it like this. And then as I did the Kata Challenge, to me, it was mostly all psychological challenges that I still dealt with. You know, I would have drawdowns that were longer than I wanted them to be, or usually it was maybe something was going on in my personal life that I couldn't, or I didn't have time to trade. Like we were talking about being out of the market, right? Or maybe I'd stay in the market, but I shouldn't have been, would make mistakes. So basically just being hard on myself and stuff. But yeah, those were the main kind of things that were going on during the Kata Challenge. Yeah.
Okay. And how many trades did it take you to start seeing the results of the Kata Challenge?
Yeah. I don't have an exact, all I know is that I always felt like, and I always still feel like I can be doing better. I think that's kind of the mind of a trader, is that, you know, I know when I wouldn't think I was doing well enough, I'd go back, and because part of it is we keep records of our trades, I'd look back at the equity curve, and then I was like, okay, well, the equity curve is going up, so I must not be doing that bad. Because before the Kata Challenge, I pretty much was just boom and bust. Like a lot of people who tried trading can relate to that. Oh, I'm doing great. Okay, I just gave it all back. Oh, you know, it was just like no traction. And this was like, you know, it wasn't maybe what I wanted. You know, I wasn't as good as, you know, maybe other, but it was an upward equity curve, and I was like, okay, well, that's good, you know. And I was like, to me, I just started to learn about myself that like I'm always, if I go to my mind, I'm always going to be unsatisfied. Like it's just part of it, you know. It's never, I'm always going to, if I ask my mind how I'm doing, it's always going to do that. So I kind of more realized that, you know, the profitability came just by showing up and doing the work. As soon as I kind of let go of wanting it to be profitable, it just worked out, you know, as long as I kept my risk measured, and the rest seemed to take care of itself. So it helped me kind of stay grounded in that process, you know.
Here's a bit more of a detailed question, like, because I'm finding the same thing. I'm trying to do the Kata Challenge, but on 3 symbols. I'm just used to. I used to be a market maker on FX, so I'm used to having orders screened at me and all of that. So, and one thing I'm struggling with is, you know, on some days you look at the market and these are the symbols you're supposed to focus on. However, you know, you can capture better moves in other symbols. You know, so how did you deal with, you know, one of the psychological aspects that, you know, I guess this Kata Challenge is supposed to help you with, FOMO?
Yeah, Exactly. I think you just deal with, I mean, it's like you just go through it. To me, that's one of those things that about it is this a commitment that you have to make when you do it is like, I'm committing for the next 20 trades to trade this symbol, no matter what. And there's
Yeah.
really like, you can feel when either you're committed or you're like, but unless something else happens, then I'm going to maybe look at these other symbols
Yeah.
because we think we're going to miss out or that, it's not enough, but it is. If you pick a symbol that's liquid and it has a good intraday range and that's tradable, there's going to be edges there. It's just like, you keep buying whatever, like more tools for your tool belt or adding more indicators. Like, it's not that, it's me, it's like
Exactly.
either I can trade well or I can't, and to me, that's how I see it, is that it was like, I think eventually you can increase span of control, but part of the benefits of this is that it reduces your span of control. It's just like the guy from Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, has like 4 pedals. Usually these guys have multi-$1,000 rack mount, effect systems. He's got 4 little pedals, that cost like $100 on the ground. And he's arguably one of the most innovative rock guitarists, in the last decade. And it was like, he said, like, he's like, I don't want to add anything because it forces me to be creative. So to me, it's like that. It's like it kind of forces you to really look at the skills and the forms and see how can I do that, this kind of minimalist approach. And it's definitely hard. I mean, it's not one thing that we do when we did the Kata Challenge workshop, when we were explaining kind of the specifics, what symbols we were going to trade and going through all that on that day. At the end, I had a disclaimer, a warning that said, be ready because this is going to be difficult, probably, like not the patterns. The patterns are simple, but it's not easy. And I was like, based on my own experience, this is very difficult. And don't even feel bad if you're not ready to do this yet, because there's something about that commitment that's really, really hard. And that's okay. Some people are ready to do that and some people are not. But to me, that it's about this way of thinking like a professional trader and improbabilities that, to let go of that FOMO. And the only way I know to do that is by the act of doing this, because like I said, it's like, you start to see positive equity curve and you're, oh, okay. And isn't that pretty much, I mean, the idea of this is to be consistently profitable, right? So it's like, if I'm getting that, why do I need all the other trades? I just want more, that's not going to help. You know what I mean? So it's like, to me, it was, it's like another thing of like kind of doing it and going through that. And just, to me, it's that recommitment to like the process of doing it,
Yeah.
And having a rigorous plan, that your plan states what you're going to do. I mean, we're big on trading plans. Having a plan that I could give you the plan and your results would be the same as mine because my plan is that good. It's that detailed,
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have an accountability partner while taking on this challenge?
Phil Wu, the guy that became my partner, the co-founder of Ablewaytech, was that was how we first got linked together. Was it Ken said, I want you to work with Phil Wu. And so, yeah, we would meet, I think it was maybe once a month or every couple of weeks or something. And so between that and then Ken was coaching me too. So yeah, I did. I think that's one of the main things that I think we try to do in the course is to be accountable. We become kind of like a group, a community, which is nice because we see each other every week. We have these weekly meetings. And I think to me, that's just so huge. Whether it's that or Ken or whoever, it's just some kind of community support, because you get the emotional support. And as you know, I mean, trading is lonely. You can get, to me, so stuck in my head about it that it's really not effective. It's not useful. So the more we can connect with other people that are like going in the same direction, I think is really important. But being accountable, having at least one person to begin with, you got to, I think. Yeah.
I think that was one of the, I guess, just eye-opening things when I joined the Tortoise ecosystem. Seeing how active of a community it is, how caring it is to its members.
Yeah.
Because I've been trading kind of on my own for 6 months, and it feels really lonely. You have no one to speak to about the trades. You have no one to discuss things with. No one to kind of, check up on you if you've done things right or wrong. So
Yeah.
it's definitely. It's I mean, what you guys have achieved in the Tortoise ecosystem is just fabulous, and the community is very caring.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you've gone through the challenge, how did you end up scaling up?
For me, it's a very slow process.
Yeah.
You know, always slower than I want it to be. But I think I actually started with one share. I didn't want to paper trade because I felt like I wanted to have some skin in the game because it kind of changes your psychology. And he said, just do one share, 2 shares. So that's what I was doing, like 1 or 2 shares. And then after a while of doing that, that increased to like $5 or something. And then after $5, I think I went to $10. Gonna get up to, I got up to like 25. And I was like, okay, well, this is for me, that was like, this is a real amount of money, you know, and then
Okay.
like 50, and 75, and then 100. But this was very slow. Like I always wanted to go faster than I actually could. I mean, for me, one thing I learned from my coach and super trader, and he said that I always remember, he's like, correct position sizing is the amount that you don't care about. And I think for some that can be $10, other people it's $10 million. You know, it's like, it's so different, but it's like, what's the amount that I don't care about, you know?
Yeah.
And that the other thing is when we do the Kata Challenge, one of the principles is trading in sample sets. So we kind of, to me, the way I applied that was that, like I said, I am ready for these next 30 trades to be all losses. Like how much am I willing to risk that? You know, so if I'm risking $100 and I'm ready to lose $3,000, like, because it's a possibility. It's probably not likely. I mean, it's about as as likely as getting 30 winners in a row, which I don't think I've ever got that, but like it is a possible. So it's like, to me, but then I'm really prepared for that size loss when I start, so that way I'm ready. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it seems like Murphy's Law or something. Whenever I increase my position size, I'm due for a drawdown. So it's like I learned to not make a big increase because it seems like whenever I increase, here comes the drawdown. So I don't want to lose back what I gained, you know, and with this big increment and risk. So, you know, it was a slow, steady thing. Yeah.
What were the things you're looking for to kind of guide your position, to guide you in increasing your position sizing or the number of symbols? Were there any
Yeah,
key metrics that you were looking at?
I would say, you know, the learning journal is just so key to that. What I would do is I would have, it was really a systems thinking approach. Like there wasn't one thing. I always, when I started, thought it would be like that. I thought it would be just when I get 20R, now I increase it. If I have a profitable month, now I increase it. Profitable month's pretty good. That's about as best I can get. But it was like, there was just so many other things. Like, okay, that seems right. That makes sense. But when I go from $50 to 75, some reason I care about it again. And now I'm messing up my rules and I'm cutting corners. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's the feedback. I don't know any other way to get that feedback besides to just kind of do it. And like, you're like, oh, okay. Now let me go back to this one for another month. So it was like, it was trial and error a lot like the rest of this stuff, and really listening to mine. And that goes back to this learning journal, because by doing that, like I would have a notebook that I would write in during the day, and then I'd review it later. So it was like a double loop learning. So the next day I'd read what I wrote, and then I could kind of get a feel for, I'd write down things I was feeling or ideas I had. And then if I had good ideas, when I review it, so it was like double loop learning, I get to review and assess what I was writing. If they were really good, then they'd make it like onto the computer, onto a spreadsheet. And so then at my periodic reviews, I'd go through that and see, you know, what are the real good ideas, things I can do here, you know, so it wasn't just, that was kind of how I treated the position sizing as well. Was that like, you know, because I typically have lots of ideas when I'm trading, you know, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do this. And so I just write them down. And then I look back, and 9 times out of 10, it was like, what? That was just because of this trade, you know. And then, but every once in a while I will have a really good idea. And so if that makes it over to the Excel spreadsheet, then that might become a new part of the trading plan, you know.
Okay. Because one thing I've noticed about increasing position sizing, you got to be ready for it. Because once you, or at least that's how it feels like to me. It's once you increase from like your $50 at risk to $75 at risk, you got to stick to that, because that's how you recover and jump back up. You know, you can't like halfway through go like, no, I'm going to trip my position sizing now. I don't feel comfortable.
Well, you're not
it's just
supposed
how
to. I've done it. Yeah, no, I've
yeah,
done it. And yeah, it's because then, yeah, and then you have the wins, and you're like, oh, now I'm risking a lot and for the losses. And that's, to me, that was like the feedback. It was like, that's what told me, okay, this is, you care too much about this, and then you're going to screw it up. You know, it's like, you can't be sitting, at least for me, I was like, I can't be worrying about this. The Kata Challenge, I just got to trade, you know, I just got to get in there and trade. So if it's screwing with me that much, and it seems to be after a certain amount of time, it does dissipate. Like when I started, I couldn't imagine trading $50. And I remember the point where I didn't care about trading $50.
Yeah.
So it's like, it happens. I just think based on who we are as humans and our, desire to do good and to whatever reason we want to make money, it's like, it's not enough. And so we feel like we need to go faster than we do. But like you said, you go faster and then you bite yourself. So it's like I heard Ken say once about that, like when you're ready to go to the next increment, stay at the previous one for another month. Like when you say, oh, I'm definitely ready to do this. No, wait one more month. So you're profitable there. So like you get a little bit more. So you're just being more cautious, So,
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm just going through my list of questions.
Sure.
mm, Is there any advice you'd give someone starting it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, well, I guess what we were talking about, I would say don't do it alone. To me, if you need help, reach out, to you, to me, to Ken, to Phil. We're all here to help because we've all been there before. We all started out at one point, and just get started, learn to manage your risk, and take care of yourself by cutting your losses so you can learn in a safe, experiential way. Is the main thing. Well, yeah, don't do it alone. There's a lot of people who want to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And then if you're doing it alone, you'll end up breaking your rules, and you have no one to knock on your head, basically.
Yeah. I mean, to be that disciplined to do it by yourself. I mean, why would you want to? It won't be as much fun. It's kind of like, obviously I use a lot of music metaphors, but it's like I heard the guy from Fleetwood Mac saying, he's like, with computers and everything, you could do it all yourself. You could do the drums and the guitar. You could do it all yourself. But what fun would that be? You know what I mean? It's a lot more fun to do this with other people, and a lot more rewarding. And and I found that to be true, at least.
Oh, that's totally right. That's totally right. It's like playing music for yourself is not as much fun as when you have a crowd, right?
Yeah. It's like, I could do it by myself and it would probably take 10 times as long and be 100 times more painful. Or I can do it with a group of people and we learn together, and that's really what life is about anyway. You know what I mean? So like, why not do that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Griffin, for taking the time to answer some of these questions and help people get to know more about the Kata Challenge. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If they have any questions, just send us an email or something, and we'll help them out because it's been good to me, and I think it really is. It can really help a lot of people, especially if you're starting. It gives you everything you need to start, which is really nice, because it's like you were talking about. It's just you get so confused. There's so many different to me. It was like, especially with Ken, there's 100 different symbols or 1,000 different symbols, a bunch of different systems. Do I trade intraday? Do I do this? Do I go short? And it's like, this makes it like, no, you do this, then you do this, and you do this. Simple, So
and it makes it quite simple. You just master these simple patterns or simple concepts,
right?
And then you move on to the next. And then the beauty of it is that it's all fractal. So, in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it makes more sense to start it on a shorter time frame, maybe 3 or 5 minutes. So you get your reps in.
Yeah,
exactly. And once you feel confident, you kind of scale up, and instead of doing 20 trades a day, you end up doing just 5. Once you've really mastered the concepts.
No, it is. It's completely fractal. I mean, it could be done on a daily or weekly chart. It's just that exactly when I was doing it, I wanted to get a lot of stick time. Like, we do it now on 3-minute charts. I originally did it on a 1-minute chart, which is very fast.
Wow.
But I didn't have a lot of time to trade either. Part of it was the time constraint. So I wanted to get a lot of stick time in a couple hours, like a couple times a week. So at least I got enough trades there. But then when I moved to 3, it seemed really slow, which was funny. But what was I going to say? But yeah, they're totally fractal. It's just that by doing the shorter time frames or intraday, we just get more, like you said, more feedback. I mean, like the Kata Challenge workshop, we did 3 minutes because if we did daily charts, we wouldn't have anything to do, So it's like, that way you get more feedback, you get a better sample set, and you learn. I think you learn quicker. But yeah, it can be adapted to any time frame, really.
Yeah. So you mentioned Ablewaytech, right? That's a business that you and Phil have started together. Is that somewhere people can reach you and find out more about the channel? Can you tell us more about Ablewaytech?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So yeah, ablewaytech.com. That's our where we have we have the Applied Systems Development course there, which is inside that course we teach the entire Kata Challenge. And what we do is when you get the course, you get to do, we have cohorts of 10 weeks where we meet once a week. And we did this last one, which seems to be getting a lot of good feedback, is we had a Kata Challenge workshop that was 6 weeks of going through together the Kata Challenge, so that you don't just like learn it from the videos, we do it together, hands-on learning. We're thinking about doing a boot camp now as well that's even more specifically about the Kata Challenge, because people seem to really like that structure and discipline.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's all part of Ablewaytech.com. You can go there and check it out. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, Griffin. Hope you have a pleasant day ahead. It's almost 12. It's 12 a.m. for me right here.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
oh, we
yeah,
could have
yeah.
met earlier, man. Yeah, I didn't know. It was so late
It's all
there.
good. It's all good. The market just closed right now, so I tend to stop trading in the last 30 minutes.
Okay. All righty.
All right,
Yeah.
let me stop the recording.
Well, yeah, it was really good talking to you. And was it you that said you have a baby on the way?
Yeah, that was me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was me. Let me just stop the recording 1 second.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought
Yeah.
I was done. Yeah, my bad.